Hello, good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Malat, and I'm here to talk with you about your critical appraisal paper. That's going to be due in several weeks, but it'll come up fast, so we wanted to have this information for you. On your the critical appraisal paper, it's one of the very first papers in the course, and it's sort of a different paper that you've never written before. It's definitely looks at certain particular aspects of a research article to critique whether those aspects of that research article are in good standing, are in good quality. This is an important process to do as a nurse because we want to be able to validate what findings we are looking for in the literature are of good quality, of good scientific rigor, and have adequate credibility and validity in what they are telling us that is our good results. So we want to have confidence in what we're reading and what we're applying with our patients in practice. So this tutorial is to help you work with a graphic organizer. A graphic organizer is a tool to help students clear their perceptions, apply their thinking toward a different project, a paper or a project. Helps you think through sort of the steps that you might need to go through in order to get to the final product. And that's what this graphic organizer tool is intended for you to do. The critical appraisal paper has two different types of graphic organizers that we've developed as faculty. There's one for the qualitative paper and one for the quantitative critical appraisal paper. Both graphic organizers, I'm going to try to go and introduce those to you today. And we are going to first look at the qualitative critical appraisal graphic organizer. So as we go through this graphic organizer, this is mostly sort of a checklist, and these came from your textbook readings and also your article readings for the step-by-step techniques to critique an article. So the first one that we're going to look at here today is the qualitative critical graphic organizer. So first of all, you'll have that with you as you're working along with me, and you want to just put your article citation up here in this part. And next you're going to see that we have different areas of the paper that are listed here as the grading rubric area. So every part of the paper is going to have some sort of an introduction, a type of the design. So in this introduction piece of the paper, these are sort of the aspects we want to see that you write about in the paper. And this is sort of a yes-no checklist. So we have evaluation criteria in this column, and in the third column we have your comments. And these are to make notes for yourself as to whether the article itself accomplishes the things that are questions in this middle column. So for instance, in the introduction, does the author introduce the phenomenon of the study and the related concepts? And so over here you would say yes or no under comments, and then if you said no, then you may want to elaborate as to summarize some of the pieces that are the problem. Maybe there's some things that the author discusses and then the other concepts are not. This is important in a qualitative study. The next question is the type of design. So in the beginning of the paper, you should be able to find out what kind of qualitative design this is. So the authors may not say it's qualitative, or they may say it's qualitative, but they may not say what type of specific qualitative design there is. And we gave you some examples here, and of course these are in your book. So as you critique your paper, you should have your book open to these chapters and to these that we are talking about. I'm sorry about this message there. Okay, so the types of designs could be phenomenology, case study, grounded theory, ethnography. So then the next question is, do qualifications indicate a degree of knowledge in the field? For this one, you really want to be able to look at, well, what are the credentials of the authors? Do they have a PhD? Do they have experience in the field of this particular topic? Are there physicians? Are there statisticians? Who are the people who are on this article, and do they give credibility to the study? Sometimes this may require you to look up the authors themselves to see where they work and what they do. It may not always be in the article. So you're just continuing to go down this list and say yes, no, it's a case study, it's a grounded theory. The qualifications, yes. Author writing style, you want to evaluate how the report is written. If it's really not written with very good grammar and syntax, then it would make you wonder about the quality of this article and the people who are writing it, since they should be having good qualifications to do this design. So take each of these and say it was well written, it was concise, it was grammatically correct, or it was incorrect. And if there was a lot of jargon, then you want to say, yes, there was a lot of jargon, it was not well organized. So just give your opinion about that, all those things over here. And you think of this comment section as a running section of your comments. Okay, so we're going to go then down to the purpose and problem statement. Now, I just want to tell you that these first two sections are not going to be listed as introduction and problem purpose statement in a research article. These are usually unlisted headers, but usually research studies do have classic headers and titles within the article. Those classic headers are methods or methodology, findings, results, discussion, implications, and conclusions. So when you read a research article, those are going to be the typical headers. But in the beginning of the article, where you're going to find this introductory part and the purpose and problem statements, those are not labeled with specific headers. They're usually just paragraphs in the very beginning of the paper. So to look now, we're going to look for the problem that the researchers are going to study, and we're going to look to see, is that phenomenon and research question consistent? So sometimes you may not see a research question in the paper. And if you're not seeing the research question, then what you want to do is go to the purpose statement, and you can dissect the purpose statement to find what the research question is. And so once you do know what the research question is, then you want to say, okay, is that consistent with the phenomenon that the people are studying in this paper? Does it make sense that both of those are relating to each other? We also want to make sure, does the background provide rationale for why the study is important? So we're just looking at, are they giving good rationale for why the study should be done? Next, you want to find the background of the study, the problem statement. And the problem statement usually has statistics, tells you about the not the significance, but the problem. How does this affect people? How does it affect our healthcare system? What are the outcomes of this issue and this problem for people who are living with this condition? And then, of course, we want to find the purpose. Is that there? Is it clearly identified? Yes or no? Is there a statement of study importance or significance? Yes or no? And if there's not, then that's going to be a major red flag. And I also wanted you to notice that these two importances, there's two things where you're looking at it, significance or importance, but they are really looking at different aspects. This one is basically looking at the purpose statement itself, and this one is looking at, do the authors provide enough support for the rationale of the significance of the report? Okay, we're going to keep moving onward because I don't have a lot of time yet. This area is very important, the literature review. So the whole purpose of a literature review in a research article is to make sure that the researchers establish what is known about a topic and what is not known, and then where is the gap in the knowledge on a particular topic of interest, of a problem that patients have or healthcare systems have. So that's what you need to know about what the literature review purpose is. So the question here is, does the review of the literature fulfill its objectives? In other words, this question is asking, does the literature that's discussed by the research, is it giving you enough information to let you know what is the problem, what's the knowledge that we know, what knowledge do we need, and what's the knowledge gap? So you're just evaluating the article and how they present their information to make sure that you can tell that the literature review fulfilled its objectives. Now we need to talk about the theoretical framework. The theoretical framework is a group of interrelated concepts from what we know about a topic. And basically it helps guide a study, helps the authors decide what kind of methodology they want to use in the study, how the learning from the knowledge gained from the research can further help the help the topic be furthered and advanced into what we're going to do with patients. So this is a yes or no question. It's either, do the researchers identify a theoretical framework, yes or no? You don't have to make one up for them. They have to say it if they're going to have a theoretical framework. So if they do say that there is a framework, then you have to answer these two questions. If they don't, then just say no. So don't make up any kind of a theoretical framework. The word should be in there if it's going to be in there for a qualitative study or a quantitative study. The next thing we want to look at is the method. How has the author's philosophical approach been identified? So philosophical approach is sort of how someone views the world. Do they look at the world in black and white? Do they look in the world as abstract, where people construct meanings from their experiences? Do they interpret things and decide that's going to be their reality because of what they've experienced? These are philosophies that people have about how knowledge is built in the world. We have symbolic interactionism, which is looking at the way people communicate with each other. Pragmaticism is looking at the world in a very pragmatic, utilitarian kind of way. Constructivism, interpretivism are isms. They're all isms here, and so that's what you should be looking for in a philosophy. Then if they do not talk about their philosophical approach, then just say no over here in this column. No, they did not talk about blah, 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 blah. So we want to answer these questions. Why did the author explain why the approach was chosen? Okay, so next we go into sampling and sample size. So we want to find out what kind of sampling method did they use. Did they use a snowball technique, a convenience sampling method, or nominal? Did they identify the sample size? Was the sampling method appropriate to the design? So in phenomenology, would you have done a snowball technique, or should you have done a convenience sample? Grounded theory, did they collect other types of data and different samples as they move through their research? So we're just going to keep going down under data collection. Is it consistent with the type of qualitative design? So here you may have to read. If you're given a phenomenology example for a research article, then you better go and read, what is a phenomenology study? What kind of data do they usually collect in a phenomenology study? And does this article do that? So you're actually, applying the literature, applying your readings. It's very important to have your book as you're doing these graphic organizers. Ethical considerations, again, you're just answering some of those questions. These are going to be similar on the quantitative as they are for here, where participants protected from harm. If the article doesn't say anything about this, then just say, no, I can't. The authors did not mention anything about da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da. Okay, so the ethical permission granted for the study would be the Institutional Review Board, the IRB, that will learn more about that. This is very important section. Are data analysis techniques discussed and appropriate to the design? So we're looking for content analysis and qualitative studies. We're looking for constant comparative analysis techniques, and we're looking for thematic analysis. So those are the types of data analysis techniques, but you want to make sure then, are those appropriate for that particular design? So grounded theory usually uses a constant comparative data analysis method, and in phenomenology we usually use a content analysis method. Okay, I'm getting close to my time here. On rigor, does the researcher discuss how rigor was assured? This is very different from quantitative and qualitative. So in qualitative, rigor is usually looked at as trustworthiness and authenticity. So you want to use these appropriate terms when looking at rigor, and this is all in your textbook. Under findings and discussion, are the findings presented appropriately to the design? So you want to make sure that in a grounded theory, that a theory is eventually designed, that a theory is actually discussed. So just look at your notes here. Lived experience should be related in quotes in a phenomenology type of design. So we're continuing going on and answering all of these questions. Has the original purpose of the study been adequately addressed? So you're making an opinion here. You're saying yes or no. Under the implications, are the implications identified? Do the implications appear appropriate based on the results and purpose of the study? So again, you're making a decision.